Two.
Three of the big four.
Right, yeah.
And we get those two in the next 2 months.
The challenge, of course, is that there's just so many records now.
Overkill.
Right?
Because it's easy to make a record.
So it's harder, especially as we get older, to sift through all that stuff, right?
But you don't have to distribute a
we'll
record, you just have to press enter.
That's right. We'll do our best. Welcome to Lock Horns live from the Banger Bar at Banger Films, where usually each week we pick apart the infamous or famous, depending on your perspective, heavy metal family tree. But this week we're doing something a little different. In case you didn't notice, we're nearing the end of 2015. So live here, we're going to pick the top 10 metal records of 2015. And as we do that, I want to remind everyone to please subscribe to Banger TV and help us build a global digital all-metal channel. To help me with today's task is none other than my friend, my brother in metal arms, Tim Henderson from BraveWords.com, the largest metal site in Canada. And a little education for all of you: before there was Blabbermouth, before there was Metal Injection, before there was Metal Sucks and all those guys, there was this guy. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. I'm honored.
How you doing?
Excellent.
You excited about this?
I'm beyond excited.
You're not nervous, are you?
Not one bit.
Not nervous.
Not one bit at all.
So to keep everything moving smoothly, Mr. Henderson will be gently sipping from a pint-sized bottle of Trooper Ale during today's chat. As usual, this is all about having your say. As we move through the show today, Tim and I are going to offer our favorites of 2015, but we want to hear from you. Do you agree? Do you disagree with our picks? What do you think's missing? Do you think some records this year have been overrated, underrated? Are there records that we've chosen that you don't think belong at all? There's a bit of a hint. Let us know. As before, off screen, we have our producer, Lisa Ladiseur, who, when you hear this sound,
Ding.
ding, it doesn't mean that Mike Tyson has bitten someone's ear. It means that we need to shut up and move on to the next thing. So, most importantly, on Lock Horns, don't hold back. We want to hear what you have to say. Before we get into the records, it's been a busy year in metal, Tim, and maybe you could give us sort of your picks of kind of the most talked about events of 2015 in the metal world.
Well, should we start off in the whole morbid side of things?
Sure, why not?
And Filthy Animal Taylor.
Yeah.
AJ Pero.
Yeah.
And more recently, Scott Weiland.
Yeah.
So big hits, especially for me personally. The whole Motorhead thing. Grew up on all those early Motorhead records and some of the birth of speed metal with the double bass there. So when he passed away, I know he's been ailing, but definitely hit us hard. Yeah. Absolutely.
And connected to that, of course, I know it's not on your list, but Lemmy has been suffering. Seems to have a bit of a rebound, which is a good thing, but it's been a tough year for him.
But Phil was also hospitalized recently too. Right. So you've got 2/5. It's only Mickey D that's been standing on the drums and in health. So
the legends are moving on.
They're moving on,
it's
but they're
tough.
still kicking.
It's tough. Man. What else? What? Any good news in metal in 2015? Do you think?
It's not good news for me, but the fans are going rabid about all this Guns N' Roses stuff. The fact that Axl and Slash are finally talking. For me personally, I couldn't really give two shits because it's kind of like the Kiss thing. It took forever to, you know what I mean, to get to the place where they're at right now. And who knows if it's going to happen. But I mean, it's exciting for a lot of fans. I will say it's exciting for a lot of fans at Guns N' Roses reunion.
One could argue that's been a top music item in the world of metal for the last 20 years. But hey, we'll make it another one.
Since they released their second last record, right?
What else? What else comes to mind?
We can talk about the Sabbath stuff because Iomi conquering cancer.
Yep.
Good news story.
Pretty amazing.
And the band actually being put to rest.
Yeah. Speaking of cancer, Dickinson as well, another survivor. Maiden fans, who isn't a Maiden fan that isn't into metal, that's great news.
He was in a great mood when we spoke a couple of months ago. He was also in a great mood. They're rolling out more Trooper beers, but he's finally gaining sensitivity in his taste buds, he was saying. So it's all coming around for Bruce, and he sounds amazing on the record.
Yeah, that's great. And of course, probably the most tragic piece of news all year is, of course, what happened in Paris. Eagles of Death Metal. I mean, not really a metal band, but that doesn't really matter.
No.
Terrible, absolutely terrible.
No, it's even hard to talk about once you kind of dig deep into what happened, and it's
Any
sad.
shining moments for you? Ritchie Blackmore, maybe?
Yeah, the Blackmore thing, definitely a Deep
Yeah.
Purple fan, actually, which
Yeah.
ties into the fact that Deep Purple got nominated, finally.
Yes.
God, they got their shit together
That's
at the
right.
Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
That's right.
Cheap Trick Chicago and the Cars and
I'm sure
stuff.
Kirk Hammett had something to do with the purple admittance into the
But-
into the hall.
As BraveWords fans, we have so many Blackmore fans. It's insane. And for him to announce that he's kind of dropping that whole Renaissance thing for a while and doing stadium shows with pulling all those Rainbow Classics out, that was a really high point for people.
What do you make of the Peart sort of quasi-announcement and then Geddy Lee responding, saying, wait a second, what's your take on all that?
I play hockey, and I'm getting arthritis here, and he's got 10 years on me.
Right.
So I hear that these guys are ailing,
Yeah.
especially bands like Rush when they're on
course.
the road every other day or every day.
And playing
and
2.5-hour sets
And he's
still.
biking before that or whatever.
Yeah.
Probably misquoted.
Yeah.
I can't see them retiring anytime soon.
Yeah.
Maybe doing like the Priest thing, or just like doing like little, just like select little tours.
Yeah.
There's no reason for a band to do what Maiden's doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like another 360 shows.
Yeah.
Hey, more
Well,
power
I think
to them.
Rush has
right?
been very careful. We're like, we're not going to do another tour of the scale. And of course, the last tour that they did a backwards retrospective of their entire career, which was pretty amazing. So it's
Right.
hard to imagine them doing something like that again.
Yeah. No.
Any looking forward or trends or things that you see happening in metal that you're excited about, whether it's scenes, developments in the business world, or certain bands or anything of that nature?
Well, let's stay old school because it's pretty rare to have two of the big four. You come into a new year, you've got a new Megadeth record in January, you've got a new Anthrax record, and the last Anthrax record was just insanely good.
Right.
So I can't wait to hear this one. Just
That's
heard the
cool.
first single.
Right
And yeah, Megadeth. Let's have two of the big four to have records out right away. It's a good kick in the ass to the scene, right?
For sure.
From the get-go.
And with Chris Adler on drums, which
Yes.
promises to be a highlight for all the Lamb of
Absolutely.
God fans. All right, enough about the news. Let's get to the records. We see that there's lots of chat coming in, and a lot of you have actually been contributing in advance of today's live show. But what we're going to do first is have Tim kick us off with a couple of his favorites of 2015, starting with Grave. Tell me about the
that's a
Grave
weird.
record.
Keep in mind, this is not the BraveWords, because we're counting down the Brave picks of the year to give a little plug. So every day there's been a new Brave pick of the year. So this is my personal
We're doing our
pick.
plugs with our t-shirts
And like
today.
even starting with this classic artwork, I'm a huge Swedish death metal fan, and
Yeah.
I crave that grinding Sunlight Studio. You know what I mean? That Thomas
sure.
Skogsberg sound.
Yeah.
We lost Dismember,
Yeah.
not physically, but
Yep.
you know what I mean? They're not doing many records anymore.
That's right, yeah.
I'm a huge Entomb fan.
Yep.
And LG, they're kind of dropping the ball. But Grave, Ola is doing some wonderful things for
It's nice to see, I think, bands of the sort of older pedigree have a bit of a return to form, or maybe those particular bands that haven't outstayed their welcome and are still finding sort of some gas in the gas tank.
This is brutal and aggressive,
Yeah.
and if you don't have a trained ear, you're going to put this thing on and just like put it in the garbage.
Right.
But no, you got to give it a couple of spins, and to have that for my #1 record above the other one we're going to talk about, like that's a huge deal.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
I'm the biggest Slayer fan. on the
Yeah,
planet.
and I think, I think this is maybe sort of an overall statement for today. I think some of the bands that we've picked are admittedly, our favorites. We're fans. We're not just experts, quote unquote. We're fans of this music. And one could argue, oh, that's just your favorite band. But I think actually in many ways, we're often tougher on our favorite bands.
Sure.
Like when our favorite bands, we feel like they haven't put out a great record, we can be pretty hard on them.
Yeah.
So, but clearly Grave is an example where
it's
you
the
feel
ultimate
they've really
disappointment,
delivered.
right?
Exactly,
If your favorite
exactly.
band.
Exactly.
And, people in the chat.
Oh yeah, we've got
Agree
people.
with you.
So, Grave Out of Respect for the Dead, Keith Justice. Grave Out of Respect for the Dead is my top album. Dale Nibby, fuck yeah, Tim. Grave album kills. Brian Osorio, Grave fucking rules. And King Prime Chambermaid, that's got a good ring. Grave is great. Hess got a great taste in music.
Sweet.
Good job,
Sweet.
buddy. Number 2. Share with us your second favorite or your other favorite to kick off our discussion today.
Well, not just because I've been following Slayer since Show No Mercy. when I was yay high grabbing the record out of a Barrie record store.
Yeah.
No, they're just genius. They are the most consistent heavy metal band of all time. This is a very powerful record, just ferocious as hell.
Yeah.
You got to get halfway through the record and listen to Atrocity Vendor, and it's got to be one of the greatest Slayer songs you've ever heard.
Yeah.
I find it interesting that it also pulls at the heartstrings because Jeff Hanneman's the first record that Jeff is not on.
Sure.
Not much on the record about him playing or any kind of credits, which kind of weirds me out.
Yeah.
They kind of distance themselves from if his tones are on there, if his guitar riffs are on there.
Yeah.
But the
overall,
artwork, everything, not a disappointment.
Sure.
And you've got the Bonded by Blood brothers.
Yeah.
Like, how can you argue against a record with Gary Holt and Kerry King on it, right?
Well, I can tell you a lot of people are arguing against that.
And Tom is the star of the show.
Yeah.
Like, his voice is just like insanity.
I would agree with you about Gary Holt. Hanneman, rest in peace. Holt is such a force of nature. No man was born to thrash more than Gary Holt. And when I've seen Slayer live with Gary, like, big shoes to fill, but that guy fucking destroys it. Yeah. Slayer Repentless, Greg Baltzer. I thought the new Slayer album was their worst album yet. Oh no! Venom released a better album than Slayer this year. Sage Keller, Disappointment of the Year. Stephen J. Slayer was not that good. And Wilco Hautman, fuck yeah, Repentless is on there as it should be. There was a split on this record.
I tell you, with the writers, there wasn't much of a split.
Yeah.
It ranked fairly high.
Yeah.
And that's so good for like a dozen of us.
Okay, well,
so
this man knows what he's talking about. He's been
I'm
around
not the reigning Blood
this
King.
scene. Yeah, it's all right. It's good to hear some accolades for these guys, considering everything they've been through with Jeff. My turn. And you know what?
You need a drink for this.
This is going to require a drink because I'm actually going to kick things off with something that I know is going to stir the shit pot pretty hard. One of my favorites of the year, Soul Invictus, Faith No More.
Sell me.
Largely not a metal record. I hear you. For all you Ghost fans out there that are going to tell us that you like that record, couldn't agree with you at all. Faith No More record. One of the best all-time sort of alternative metal bands in the world, in my opinion. After such a long hiatus to come back with such a strong record, I think from a songwriting perspective, and also a bit of a sort of, fuck you, we don't care about what the expectations might be. I think I share the disappointment that I think a lot of fans had in the sense that they wished it would be a heavier record. But if you take your time with it, the genius to me lies so deep in this record, from Patton's lyrics and vocal delivery through to the power of the Borden and Gould rhythm section. Tracks like Superhero and Motherfucker, to me, are two of the best songs that Faith No More has ever created. But what does Tim Schmayhorn says? Yes, Faith No More. I think, Tim, you might be my only friend out there. Tyler Charbonneau. Oh, Iron Maiden, Ghost, and Faith No More. Okay, Stephen J. Fuck yes, Faith No More. And Mint Merciless. Soul Invictus was the greatest comeback of this year. I was expecting some more animosity. I'm feeling the love. Peanut Butter Knife Fight. QFNM aren't a metal band. Comments. Duly taken. You know what?
They're
Sorry.
avant-garde metal.
They're avant-garde metal.
With the family. We're not going to kick them out of the
family.
I'm
going to resist launching into a philosophical diatribe about how amazing Faith No More is, because you will all fall asleep. My other favorite record of the year that also will probably not be on a lot of people's lists is this band from Washington State, Black Breath, Slave Beyond Death. For those of you who don't know this band, relatively new. I think this is their third full-length album. If you love Grave, if you love that sunlight sound in the guitars, I don't know where the guys are channeling this Swedishness, but this, in my opinion, is one of the more promising sort of death thrash metal bands to emerge in the last few years. And I think that in a time when thrash has kind of become a bit of a gimmick, municipal waste, a band like Black Breath to me is sort of paying homage to where things have come from, but I find that their riffs and their songwriting and the way that they move through song to song is really exciting. So there's my other pick for the year, is Black Breath. Enough from us. We're turning to the board. let's hear, well, I guess we got some consensus before we do that. Benedict Burdoff from Germany agrees. Walke Proj, Black Breath, exclamation mark. Eli Lopez, hell yeah. Sam Oliver, yes, Black Breath. Cassidy Dunn, like the name. Fuck yeah, Black Breath. Got some agreement out there. So, we've kicked things off. We've got 4 on the board. We want to come up with 10 today. So we're going to turn to all of you folks. This is really no surprise, Tim. Ghost Meliora has been getting a lot of acclaim this year. Tiago from Portugal, welcome back, Tiago. This year, the winner must be Ghost's record for all the reasons we can aim for. It is a landmark in a band that refreshed the entire heavy world, especially with this ambitious but yet simplistic LP. On My Way to Route 666 says, Ghost must win the best for this year. This is the most influential album from this year for sure. A landmark in a band that is a very unique, in the metal universe. Amon Amarth, really? Don't even mention Ghost because it's a no-brainer. Obviously, it's top 3. And Satan West, it just goes on and on and on. Tim, I'm not a big Ghost fan.
And I feel the hype. I see it all the time, but it goes way over my head. It really does.
Does that just make us curmudgeonly and purist?
Yeah,
I don't know.
Bring in the wheelchairs, man.
But thanks for sharing. I think that's there's a lot of love for Ghost out there. You know, point taken. Probably many of you think maybe that Faith No More is legitimately not a metal record. I could make the same argument about the Ghost record, but hey, the internet is the boss. This is no surprise. Iron Maiden, Book of Souls, a record that's got a lot of attention this year. Obviously, a double record, the first in the band's epic career. Brandon Dubois, Iron Maiden, Slayer, Motorhead, and Ghost all put out great albums this year, but the sheer ambition of Book of Souls should place it at number 1. Horror Master, the Book of Souls album of the year, period. Kyle Kittelberger, Iron Maiden is number 1, and Jay Straga says Book of Souls.
So I think we need to write them on the board.
We're going to write Book of Souls and Ghost. So I'm just going to do Maiden, because we all know what that means in the metal world. And the font is trademark away, Voivod. Thanks, Michelle. Tell me.
We're both close to this camp, right?
Yes, very close.
I still haven't
Some
finished.
might
I
argue
haven't
too
finished listening to this record yet. Like honestly,
because it's still playing.
It's still playing. Yeah, it was insane.
Yeah.
It took a lot of balls when
Yeah.
bands aren't even talking about doing albums.
Yeah.
They want to do a single, and you get a band like Iron Maiden that wants to do a triple album.
Yeah.
Of,
Yeah.
90 plus minutes.
Yeah.
Bruce, spectacular. I do like a good chunk of this record. I
Yeah.
think the production is really the only thing that kind of falls down for me.
Yeah.
It's just it's too perfect.
Yeah,
I think
a little clean.
I think they need to go back to some of the other, like a peace of mind, just something raw from
Right.
the garage.
Right.
And that's no disrespect to Kevin Shirley.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Well,
just,
he's
it's
done some great
maybe
work with
just
the band. You know, Brave New World was an amazing
taking
record.
too much time.
Yeah,
on it.
yeah.
Too much time.
Yeah, I mean, my opinion, we're talking about my favorite band of all time. So back to my earlier point, you know, I think that we put bands like this under a much stronger microscope than, say, other bands. And for me, it just didn't hit me in the sweet spot. I appreciate the ambition. I really like the fact that the band involved pretty much the whole band in the songwriting process. It wasn't sort of primarily a Harris creation. I respect that. But similarly, I just felt that the songs weren't as strong as they have been in the past. I think certainly since, you know, the 15 return of Bruce and Adrian era, we've seen stronger records from Maiden, but it's Maiden. Who am I to criticize? It's like saying I don't like to breathe oxygen. I don't really have a lot of choice. Maiden will rule forevermore. And there's evidence on the board. We've got even more. Slay God 10 says Book of Souls was great. Still wished it was heavier. Yeah. Thank you for your comments. Maybe those are the two obvious ones that we've been hearing about this year. On the board, we've also got the latest Cattle Decapitation record, Jason Bellafleur. Cattle Decap had a great album this year with all the amazing and technical singing that he laid down, I would agree, and inspirational lyrics. of the issues no one wants to talk about. Can't forget the music is on point and every track is lined up very well. Each song complements the other. Thank you, Jason. Thank you for everyone for telling us why you like the record. It's nice to hear. This is a great band. Dylan Rostocker, Cattle Decap, definitely needs to be on the list. Brian Osorio, welcome back. Brian, Cattle Decapitation, Sam Dixon, and Matt Branscombe agree. Do you have thoughts on this record, Tim?
Yeah, I think they're kind of following the path of Cannibal Corpse on the label. Give it 10 years,
Yeah.
and they might be the best band on that label.
Right.
The biggest selling band on the
Yeah,
label.
I really have a lot of respect for this band. I mean, they've been around for a while now, but they're the thinking man's Cannibal Corpse, and it really is a band that you cannot judge by its cover. I interviewed the singer this summer at Heavy MTL, and it's a band with a lot to say and using very brutal death metal as a vehicle to communicate some important stuff. So.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if I'm on board totally with their philosophy, but yeah, the graphic nature of it, it gets those wheels turning.
Yeah, for sure. I think
beautiful.
it's good for the genre. Good for the genre. Okay, are we coming back to Tim's list here, Lisa? What's the plan?
We are right after you add cattle to the board.
Oh, thank you. Oh my goodness. If it wasn't for Lisa.
It's the cattle call.
Cattle is on the board. Okay, Tim, we're going to take a bit of a break, I think, from the audience and come back to you for your next couple of picks of this year. I think we're going to talk about, and you kind of stole this from me because this is on
This
my,
is your band.
This
man.
is one of my
your band.
faves. Enslaved in Times. Tell me about this band. Tell me about this record.
I don't think it's probably the only record that I could listen to from start to finish, aside from these two, that just carries you away.
Yeah.
Like these do different things for me.
Yeah.
So almost in a different way, that could be one of my top records of the year.
Right.
No question.
Yeah, yeah.
And they were quoted recently about how so many people are calling them the next Pink Floyd and all this stuff, and how they're not offended by that. It's just they're so daring and so beautiful, and it's. To say that they're experimental is, they're far beyond that.
Yeah.
They've got like a painter's palette with a number of different colors, and they just pick and choose, and whatever goes on, it's a done deal. But I love it. And they've still kept the growl.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They haven't done the Opeth thing and kind of left that behind. It's
Right.
still aggressive
Yeah.
and progressive.
I agree. I mean, I did a review of this on Overkill Reviews a few weeks ago, and couldn't agree with you more. I don't think it's the best record of theirs in their catalog, and we could probably fill a whole hour just talking about that.
Marjo.
But Rune. But we can agree that this record is very strong, and I think this is a sign of, again, another band that's been around for 20 odd years that is still growing as songwriters. Maturing well, not sort of falling back, resting on old laurels, or being nostalgic. Death Magnetic, Saint Anger. But anyway, I'm clearly too opinionated. We've got a lot of agreement out there. Enslaved in Times. Greg Baltzer agrees. Jular 420 agree. Enslaved. Sage Keller loved Enslaved. Amazing album with amazing album, and one of the great albums of the year. There's a lot of albums in that response. Ludwig van Rijn, fuck yes, Enslaved is great. And Karen Rodbro Pedersen, fuck yeah, Enslaved. Cassidy Dunn is back. Most consistent black metal band ever. Anything to add, Tim?
They're so good that they need to be, like one of the upper level bands has got to bring them on the road.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They need to have that foresight.
Yeah.
Just like Gigantor brought up Opeth in.
Yeah.
Right?
I think you make a good point. I think the way that they're kind of straddling the melodic with the extreme is getting to that point where there's something in it for a lot of people from a pure audience perspective. So I think this is a band that's got a lot of gas in the tank.
Yeah, absolutely.
Next record. I know you're a big fan of this band. Paradise Lost, The Plague Within.
I was a big fan of this band.
Okay.
And then I wasn't a big fan of this band.
Got it.
And a lot of their fan base really got, because they kind of went down the Depeche Mode
Right.
kind of thing. And no offense to Depeche Mode. I do have my moments with them.
I don't know about that. I give all offense to
But
Depeche Mode.
once Paradise Lost, released Icon and Draconian Times, they kind of lost the plot.
Right.
And it took them about a good 3 or 4 records to kind of back on track.
Yep.
And I truly believe last year's Brave Pick of the Year, which was Bloodbath, and Nick Holmes was singing on this motherfucker of a record.
Bloodbath, yeah.
Like, kind of like in the whole Grave kind of things where you need to pay attention because there's just so much going on in the guitar work on that thing. Anyways, I think it lit a fire under his ass and Paradise Lost ass, and collectively the whole BraveWords family is just in love with this record.
That's great. I mean, this is not a band that I know. I mean, go way back to the very first record. Still have it on vinyl.
Yeah.
But not a band I followed through its career. So it's nice to hear that you feel this is a band that has returned to something, but doing something that's still moving forward, I guess.
No,
is what
for
you're saying.
sure.
Yeah. Paradise Lost, The Plague Within, Sakis Barbralexis, Paradise Lost, Death Doom, Tsunami, Harry GD, welcome back. Harry, yes to Paradise Lost. There's some Greek, I can't even pronounce it. It says Paradise Lost, and King, Prime, Chambermaid, Paradise Lost, and Couch Crashers. That sounds like an employee of Banger. Yes, so happy to see Paradise Lost on this list.
Yeah,
Love how they went back to Death Doom and blended it with their recent gothic stuff.
Well
Lisa.
said.
So let's actually take Paradise Lost from down in the basement where they are, maybe move them up a little bit
So we all like
so we can all see it. There we
give
go.
them some time in the sun. We shall do that. Lisa, we're turning to one of my next favorites, correct? This is a band that some of you know. We're doing Cataclysm, we're doing Lamb of God. Lisa. help
Which
me
one
out
you
here.
got in your hand?
I got Cataclysm.
All right.
We're going to do Cataclysm.
Cat's out of the bag.
Of Ghosts and Gods. This record, now, Canadian band, maybe a little biased. They're kind of in our backyard out of Montreal.
No bias.
Admittedly, this is a band, I love Shadows and Dust and followed them very closely. Kind of stopped paying attention and heard this record and was like, what have I been fucking missing something? Because my opinion is that this is a band that's showed a bit of an organic transition away from just sort of purist death metal to adding some more melodic elements, but still sounds very much like Cataclysm. And, you know, we were talking earlier, a lot of the Swedish bands, in my opinion, have kind of stopped doing what they're best at. And this feels like, in my humble opinion, the kinds of records that maybe a Soilwork or In Flames should be making.
Right.
You like this band too?
Love them to death.
Yeah.
And probably one of the most vicious frontmen on the planet.
for sure.
Rachel's a king.
For sure.
I think it rises above a lot of people's heads. It's still brutal. I just don't think for some it just hits them between the eyes.
Yeah.
So maybe it's because it's too technical. They're just like, they're really geniuses. JF is just a master producer and a master guitar player, but to have that frontman Maurizio, you wouldn't want to meet him in a dark alley.
Not me.
Unless he's got one of his beers with him.
This is, I kind of wanted to throw this on the board because I feel like if you haven't listened, if you're like me and you've stopped paying attention to Cataclysm, listen to this record and I can guarantee you, you're going to like it.
Welcome back.
We got some love on the board for Cataclysm of Ghosts and Gods. Daniel Warnes, yes. Cataclysm. Roy Robichaud of Ghosts and Gods, fucking killer release. And Willek Proj is back saying Cataclysm is pop death metal. Ooh, is that supposed to hurt? We supposed to take that personally?
I took that as a hurt.
We taking that as a hurt?
Yeah.
We don't care. We love this band. That's just the way it goes on Lock Horns, people. So what's next, Lisa?
Well, there's a lot of bands that we haven't mentioned yet, so let's get through some of those.
Okay. We want Lunar Strain 235 is saying, put the goddamn Tribulation. Dale Nibby, welcome back, Dale. Tribulation produced the most inspired and creative heavy metal album of 2015. Glenn Wright, yes, definitely Tribulation. You know this record,
well,
Tim?
not only because a lot of the writers actually put it on their list. So you'll see that upcoming on the Brave Picks. So something that I need to spend more time with.
Yeah.
And maybe you do too, obviously.
Yeah, I do. But let's put it on the board because clearly there's a bit of consensus about Tribulation.
As you said, we can't listen to everything. There's just too much that pours in.
Indeed. And we were talking about that at the outset. This is a bigger topic, but of course, in the digital world in which we now live, there's a lot of metal.
It's insane.
There's a lot of metal.
My downloads folder's like 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 things this year.
Kind of keeps me up at night because I want to be fully up to speed on this stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting here with anxiety, and I think maybe we should do this next year, is have our favorite debut record of the year, because I feel like I need sometimes a kick in the ass to like go and listen to some new bands.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some debuts out there that are really great. So let that be a call to the audience. If there's a debut album this year that you feel deserves to be on the list and tops, you know, Van Halen, probably the best debut record of all time, but we won't get down that rabbit hole.
If you're experienced.
Let us know if you're experienced. Pierre Shiziel says Tribulation is as innovative with black metal as Enslaved is. We've got some homework. Thank you, Pierre. Okay, let the cat out of the bag, people. This was bound to happen. Lamb of God. Lamb of God, Volume 7, Sturm und Drang. Wilco Houtman, Lamb of God and Slayer are my highlights. Aaron Klassen, Lamb of God, Sturm und Drang. Soren Markov, Lamb of God, Sturm und Drang was amazing. This wasn't on your list, Tim. What?
Not on my top
I don't know.
four list.
Do you?
They
Are you
are-
a fan of this band, or where do you sit?
I think they're amazing, but they don't amaze me.
Okay. Yeah.
And maybe because there's too much core in their metal.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
hear a little bit of fill, and that's
Yeah.
I know what their history is and how big they
Yeah,
are. Like
yeah.
it's maybe there's just like a little bit of a generation gap where I prefer things a little darker
Yeah.
than the standard
Yeah.
American metalcore.
Fair enough.
What I hear from them.
Fair enough. I'm not going to say too much because I'm going to be reviewing this album soon, and I actually think this record is arguably the finest lyrical and vocal performance we've seen in metal in a long, long time. And that's not just extreme metal, but I won't carry on. I happen to think that this record is absolutely fantastic. But that's just my opinion. And let's see what the
We're looking
board
at
has
yours.
to say. We had some love for Sturm und Drang. What else do we have out there, Lisa? We got some new ones coming in. We've got Five Magic's Lucifer, is that his typo? Featuring Joanna from the now defunct The Oath. Released one of the strongest traditional doom metal albums ever. Lucifer wrote an amazing traditional doom album and is their debut. Thank you, Five Magics. Is this a band you know?
No.
Lucifer.
No.
I've met him, but I don't know this band. Satan West agrees Lucifer is a good debut album.
Well, he would say that.
Satan is out there trumping his own music. What else do we have on the board? Lisa Sam Dixon. Napalm Death wasn't anything innovative, but it absolutely kicked ass. Joel Harold agrees Napalm Death's Apex Predator, a must. Sam Dixon, Napalm Death wasn't anything innovative. That's kicked ass. That's a repeat. Rousseau Van Rooyen, Napalm Death, Apex Predator for my vote. A lot of Napalm Death love.
Love
What do
it.
you
Love them.
think?
Love them.
Yeah.
Nobody's doing what Barney and those guys are doing.
And we're just going to give it an ND because
Yeah.
we do not need to spell that motherfucker out.
They
Lots
hit
of love
with
for
our
this band.
writers.
Yeah.
It's extreme beyond extreme. I think a few of my writers grew up in that whole Scum era.
Yeah,
Which that material kind of grazed over my head a little
Right.
bit. Give me the whole diatribes thing.
Right.
But I appreciate what they do, and God, they're pushing my age.
Yeah, I
and
know.
they're still bouncing around
They
on stage,
just-
and Barney's still stage diving. Like it's insanity. It's awesome.
They're making us look like old men. What else do we have on the board? Sven Jeski, MGLA. One of the best black metal releases of the decade so far. Thank you, Sven. Zach Melvin McNutt. Love that name. If I had to pick just one, I would go with Sulphur Aeon. Gateway to the Antisphere. Stefan Kurtzman, Album of the Year 2015. Sulphur Aeon again. Sulphur Aeon. I don't know this band. Tim, you know this band?
Just by name.
Okay.
One more for the list.
Right. Leviathan, Scar-Sighted, comes in from Sage Keller. Cole Sippel agrees that Leviathan, and also we've got Kelvin Dan, Vatnet Viskar with the album Settler. It's an album that's not too complicated and gets down to business. It's a catchy black metal album with simple song structures that get stuck in your head, also gruesome. There's an interesting point. Know you're a black metal fan. Now, with maybe the exception of Enslaved, who's obviously become arguably extreme prog metal,
Yep.
not a lot of black metal up here.
No,
That
and that's
genre,
you know what,
I don't
it's a
know.
good thing. Let's just keep
Yeah.
it underground,
Yeah,
right? And
Yeah.
the odd one will bubble,
Yeah.
And
No Deaf Haven up here for you.
no, and that topic's actually come up a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, it's interesting that in many ways, it's like we've seen this doom resurgence and this black metal you see black metal in Parkdale these days, which is a weird thing. Lisa, what?
We need to get some new names on the board, and
Okay.
we actually have so many comments about Leviathan that I can't keep track, including this one here.
Okay, this exists. Imposter. Sam Sutherland, I believe, says that listen to the people. Leviathan is doing the best version of contemporary hipster-approved black metal, and you know it. Love you, Sam. We'll put it on the board. Leviathan, fine. Fan. Thank you very much. What else we got out there? Wilco Hopeman is back. All-time favorite album of this year was the new Nightwish album. Neil Sackman, the new Girl School is great too, and Satan, Atom by Atom, brilliant.
There was 3 fairly decent new wave of British heavy metal records out here.
Okay, yeah.
Saxon, Raven,
Yeah.
who hasn't released a record in forever, and Girl School for sure.
Just won't go away. Or it comes
No.
back. Or I don't know. I don't know where that's at. I'd rather hear the old bands do it than...
I'm happy it's scattered,
Yeah.
and they're not releasing
Yeah.
a record every year. Although Saxon is, but...
The philosophical point I was trying to make before I got cut off by the bell by Lisa was that we're seeing a lot of classic genres of metal getting sort of recycled.
Sure.
You know, like Doom is a great example, arguably black metal, and certainly the new wave of British heavy metal where we have new bands sort of unabashedly paying homage to those eras. What's your opinion on? Is that just predatorial? Is that just...
Are we going to piss on that? No, it's all... And not just such regurgitation.
In the Injustice for All documentary. Brian Alvarez, if you're... We'll just... It's 2 for 1.
It's 10.5.
People, I mean, perhaps we should let democracy reign here. And not necessarily whether we agree or not, but my sense is the 2 strongest was certainly Maiden and probably Ghost. Is that a fair estimation, Lisa Latisseur?
A lot of comments in favor so far.
Yeah, okay. Okay, well here we go then, folks. We're adding Maiden. Not High on Fire. Sorry, boys.
Yep, I won't debate that.
And Ghost.
Although I would have chosen Napalm Death over Ghost, but no,
Yeah.
they're breaking new ground.
For sure.
Right?
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Love them or hate them.
Yeah. Interesting cross-section. We've got, mostly older bands. Mostly bands who have been at this for 10, 15, 20 years, with the exception of maybe Ghost and Black Breath. But just goes to show, it's not just a young man's game.
However, there's a band making a run for it at the last minute.
Okay, Patrick Makasik, Amorphous, please, Sam. Banger rules, thank you. Amorphous, come on. And King Prince Chambermaid just can't get enough. King Prince, Amorphous. Well, maybe we should just get them on there. Sorry, Cattle, you're going to have to share the limelight. Again, another band that's been around. I remember seeing them at the Cathedral.
I love them. And the new singer, not that he's really new.
Yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
they're still geniuses.
Cool. Is that it for today, Lisa?
We got a couple of last ones that I think
We got
are
some
important
stragglers
up
coming
here.
in. Better late than never. You better act quick. Dale Nib is back. I think it's a fairly solid list, guys. But MGLA and Tribulation. Well, Tribulation we have up there.
It's there.
MGLA. This is a band just a band you know?
It's not I need to be enlightened.
Yeah.
So please enlighten me.
MGLA. Lots to learn. And Amon Amartha's back. That's what I'm saying. These sheep need to discover new bands. I agree. Venomous Maximus and Dying Gorgeous Lies. Thank you.
We're listening.
We're listening. We'll officially add it next year. In fact, I think it deserved maybe its own show, is Best Debut Records. So, what we want you to do now that we have our top 10 is we want you to order these records. And through that ordering, we will crown the king. of 2015.
You mean like 1-800 number order or?
That's right. Our telecommunicators are standing by for your call at Banger Films. No, give us your list online. We'll compile them. We'll spit it back out. And soon enough, we will name the best album of 2015 according to Lock Horns. I think that's it. Lisa, are we done? Are any stragglers coming in? Is that it? Telephone Bear. I know him. MGLA was fantastic. Best straight black metal in a while.
So
Point
while
taken.
we're on break, I think we should just all listen to MGLA and get up to speed.
Thank you for the homework assignments. Everyone tuning in to Lock Horns this week. I want to thank Tim Henderson for joining me in the Metal Bar. Good job, my friend. Off camera, Daniel, Lisa, Sam, Sutherland, Lana, and Andrew for all their work in helping this make this happen. Reminder to subscribe to Banger TV if you want to see an OTT, all digital international metal channel. Reminder that the show will be archived in a few hours. You can watch it and cast your vote. This is the last show of 2015. We're going to take a little bit of time off in January to recalibrate and recover from our booze-fueled holidays. Thank you for joining us in the Banger Bar. We'll see you next time on Lock Horns.